What greening the earth does is engage in taking marginal land that's not producing, and we're turning it into pasture that not only produces a productive crop outcome and grazing outcome, but actually draws down carbon out of the atmosphere and stores it in the land. Now, not many people know this, but you can actually store in the soils of the earth more than twice as much carbon as exists in the atmosphere. So the soil becomes a wonderfully natural carbon sink, in other words, a collector of carbon from the atmosphere. And what we do is we identify certain plants and farming methods for particular crops that can grow on very harsh, marginal, dry lands, underperforming plains, land that's basically been affected by prolonged drought, salinity, and as you know, we've had a lot of bushfires in Australia too, which hasn't helped. A good example of the type of species that we use is actually saltbush. Saltbush grows very, very strongly and in a wild way all around Australia. And that is predominantly our main species, but we do add to that other grasses and other plants that help support it, because greening the earth is centred around biodiversity. In other words, the broader the mix of plants that we use, the better they support each other and make for a better outcome. The plants that we use are called C4 plants, and they only need a little bit of water, not very much irrigation at all. And the beauty is, of course, that they can be irrigated with salt water as well. They don't need much fertiliser, and they create permanent remediation of the soil. So that means that we reduce soil erosion, we reduce dust storms because we're covering the land. We address the environment in terms of restoring the natural habitat for wildlife. We generate net negative carbon emissions. We improve life on the land, grow food, and get good positive outcomes from land where, generally speaking, nothing else can grow. Those things, in turn, bring people onto the land, generate employment and a better way of life. Soil carbon and greening the earth produce a lot of what we call compounding values and benefits. It does this in two ways. Firstly, the generation of net negative emissions as a better outcome than zero or carbon neutral emissions. And secondly, the more that the crops are grazed and harvested above ground, the stronger the root systems are encouraged to grow below ground. So what happens is that we get an increasing volume of soil carbon accumulated annually in the soil. So that means that the more we harvest and grow, the more carbon we capture, and the better the outcome, and the stronger the land revival too, because it's the carbon in the soil that's restoring all the nutrients and vitamins and natural insects and all the other compositions that go into making a viable pasture. So that means that once we achieve a particular carbon capture level, then that level will continue to exponentially increase year after year after year after year. So it's a gift that keeps on giving.